Welcome back to Better Than a Pill. Today, I am so excited to have two guests on here for the first time. And we have today Polk Dillon, who is a retired Navy captain, a pilot, a furniture rep, and he has been a Redox molecule coach for the past 9 years. And he is from Pinehurst, North Carolina. So welcome, Polk.
Thank you.
And also Dr. Cathey Painter, who is a traditional naturopath. Welcome, Cathey.
Thank you.
And today we're going to be talking about redox molecules and what they are and how they can help our health and wellness. And so I thought we would start off, Cathey, if you could explain to us a little bit about what redox molecules are. I know I have never heard of them. And I know a lot of people listening today probably haven't either.
Absolutely. Well, before we get into exactly what redox molecules are, I want to remind your audience that when there is a health and science breakthrough, it takes a number of years before it becomes mainstream. Most people are shocked to find out that 40 years ago, nobody knew anything about antioxidants. Today, everybody knows about them. Another interesting thing, penicillin was discovered in 1923, but it wasn't until 1948 or 1949 that penicillin was implemented in hospitals. Why? Well, it takes a number of years for acceptance, then you have to manufacture, and then you have to implement. So keep that in mind as I am explaining what redox molecules are. So redox molecules, this is something that every cell in your body manufactures. It takes that saline that each cell sits in. What is saline? Salt and water. It rearranges the molecules to create redox molecules. Those molecules are then used for cellular redox signaling. This is how our cells communicate with each other. Now, when cellular communication is optimal, the moment a toxin comes in, the moment a cell with damaged DNA shows up, the cells communicate, the immune system gets the message, and the problem is eradicated. Now, scientifically, we know that the body, there is a natural decline every decade that we're alive in the production of redox molecules, 10% decline. On top of that, toxins and stress further lower the production. And even if you eat a healthy diet, even if you live a really calm life, you just cannot avoid toxins. And so almost everybody is deficient in redox molecules, and everybody can benefit by replenishing those redox molecules so that your cellular signaling is optimal. For many people, this is the missing link to better health. And I have seen it firsthand. So I always like to point out what happened with myself, because anytime I implement anything into my practice, I'm going to do a lot of deep research. And by the way, there is a lot of research on this, and I'll go into that in a minute. But for me, I had an issue where acid was coming up in my throat. And I'd used all my naturopath tools. Nothing was helping me get better. And I knew it could become a life-threatening issue. So I went to a top Beverly Hills gastroenterologist. I did all of the testing. I took all of the pharmaceutical drugs, and nothing was helping me with this issue. Well, fast forward a year later, I was introduced to these molecules and I started drinking them. And about 2.5 weeks in, I had an aha moment. I no longer was having any issue with acid coming up in my throat. And that's when I realized this was the missing link for me. Because I was deficient in these molecules, my cellular communication was deficient, and my immune system was not getting the message of what the problem was and where the problem was. And so it just was amazing to me, this transformation. And then I started introducing these molecules into my practice. And I felt very comfortable doing that because These molecules are made out of salt and water. Now, they're no longer salt water. A third-party company validates that every bottle is full of trillions of these redox molecules. Those salt and water molecules have been rearranged to become redox molecules. And the beautiful thing, as far as being a naturopath and implementing this into my practice, there is no toxicity. You cannot reach toxic levels of these molecules, and they do not interfere or interact with any medication or medical procedure or supplement. So I felt very comfortable implementing them into my practice. And what I saw was really just amazing, because, you know, when you use other things, they target specific issues. Well, because what this does is it turns your cell signaling back to optimal levels and communicates with your immune system. If you have any kind of issue at all that involves your cells, this is going to be beneficial for you. I mean, think about that. That is amazing. And that explains why I have seen so many amazing things. I've seen people with vaccine injury from the COVID vaccine. I had a woman who could not walk or talk after not walk or sleep after the Pfizer vaccine. And I got a phone call. Can you help us with this? We've been to the doctor. The doctor doesn't know what to do. And I said, yes, I knew that this could help, because the double-blind placebo study showed that 100% of the people that drink these molecules have a 21 to 31% improvement in 5 key gene signaling pathways. It is your immune, inflammation, cardiovascular, hormone modulation, and digestive enzyme pathways. And the studies show a 800% increase in glutathione efficacy. Now, this is the master antioxidant of the body that gently detox you, and to improve that by 800%, well, that's a game changer. So anyway, this person got on these molecules on a Monday. On Tuesday, she felt a little worse, but we knew that this was helping her because she was detoxing this stuff out. But on Wednesday, she was able to walk again and sleep again. And by day 8 or 9, her symptoms were gone. And I just, of course, was so happy to have this non-toxic tool to help her. And of course, she and her family were eternally grateful. And I have seen all sorts of simple things, digestion issues, people that have headaches, people that have discomfort in their joints or their lower back. I've seen those things turned around. I've seen kids who have issues with focus. I've seen that greatly improve. And one of the things that the scientists know is that these redox molecules penetrate the blood-brain barrier, and that they help improve any mental or brain issue that you can name. So it's amazing what happens when we give our immune system what it needs to operate at optimal levels. You know, the molecules are not doing this. The molecules are increasing cellular signaling. They're increasing cellular communication so that your immune system gets the message.
I see. So that's fascinating. So these molecules, from what I'm understanding in layman's terms here, they actually are the catalyst to the communication, which improves primarily your immune system. Is that right?
Right. You know, in the naturopath world, you know, in naturopath school, you know, we are taught the only thing that really creates optimal health and can really turn something around is your immune system. You know, everything a traditional naturopath is doing is to help your immune system. And so, you know, yes, antioxidants can help, detoxing can help. But when we improve cellular communication and we know that the immune system is getting the message, this truly is the missing link that really helps people. They may have tried everything else, and those things are helping, but this is what gets them over the hump. This is the missing link to better health.
Very interesting. And so you're seeing this, and this is something that you integrated into your practice about how long ago? And I'm curious because you've been doing other things up until you
Right.
use these smoke. Yeah.
Right. About a year and a half ago. And when I had started to see what I was seeing in my practice, I said, I really feel a moral obligation to teach other people about this. I mean, I don't want to just keep it for only the people that come and work with me in my practice. And so that's why Polk and I work together to implement a webinar that we do every Wednesday night at 6 o'clock Pacific, 9 p.m. Eastern, and every Saturday morning, 9 a.m. Pacific, 12 noon Eastern. We do this webinar so that anybody that says, you know what, I'm curious, I want to know more, they have something that they can come to. It's a 30-minute webinar. We do a 30-minute presentation, and then we stick around to answer questions. We share a few testimonies, but we want to make sure that people have an opportunity to learn about this, because there's no advertising on this. It's not a pharmaceutical drug. We don't make any claims whatsoever, but people need to be educated on it, because again, even though these redox molecules have been on the market, there's only one company in the entire world that figured out how to create these molecules and stabilize them outside the body so that we could put them back in bodies that were deficient. And so because it's not a pharmaceutical drug, we don't advertise. It's strictly word of mouth. It takes education for somebody to be able to get enough information to decide if this is something they want to implement into their daily regimen. And, for your listeners that are sitting out there going, well, I don't have any health issues. The prevention aspect of it is amazing. And I always like for Polk to share the prevention aspect, because, I'm a traditional naturopath, but Polk is an everyday person that's just interested in good health and prevention. So Polk, why don't you explain the prevention aspect of it?
Well, that's what got me started anyhow. I've always just been interested in staying healthy. When I was flying planes, they taught me that preventing things from going wrong was a good idea. And that's for the plane and me. They also told me if I got sick, I couldn't fly. So prevention got to be very important to me. And so, I do exercise, I eat well and all that stuff. But what I've really discovered over the years is that supplementing the nutrition is really the best thing. And I eat for enjoyment. I do supplements for my health. But anyhow, and I'm 80 years old now. And so far, so good. I've outlived my younger brother and sister by 15 years, over 15 years now. So I think and this is before I heard about these redox molecules, I might also add, when I first started taking these molecules, I was really, as I've said, I was doing it for prevention and expected nothing. And I had a few surprises over the years, but one of them was, I'd always had some issues with my back and my hip and my hands, the joints in my hands. And I had discovered that this Aleve stuff was pretty good at taking care of that. So I bought it by the big bottles. And 6-8 months into taking these redox molecules, I realized I wasn't taking the Aleve anymore. So a nice little surprise. But prevention still is my reason. And obviously that was doing a little preventing. So that's but my favorite story though about prevention is I've got a friend of a friend that lives in Kentucky. And his wife told him that he and they were going to start taking these molecules. Now, he was perfectly healthy like me and a lot of people. And he really didn't want to. But she said, we're going to do this. And he said, yes, ma'am. As all good husbands do. He said, I'll do it. And even though he tried every few months to say, hey, nothing's happening, I want to quit, she said, nope. But anyway, a year went by and they were doing an x-ray and they scheduled him for surgery the next day to take out a fourth of his lung because he had a tumor on it. And they came up the next day and told him that the tumor that they had taken out was the size of a walnut. Now, the size of a pea will usually kill you. It was the size of a walnut, and they said, you're not going to believe this, but it was encapsulated. Those bad cells didn't go anywhere. Lord knows how long he'd been having that tumor, but they were amazed, and he was very grateful that his wife had made him do this.
Wow. Yeah. So interesting. So yeah, there is a high level of prevention that can occur, obviously.
Right.
Well,
And
this
that's not the only testimony like that. There's several others. That's not just a one-off. And so, you know, we always, you know, we always are interested in preventing. And as a naturopath, of course, I see the toll, both financially and emotionally, that it takes on somebody to recover from a serious health issue. I always say, you know, it's a much better investment to invest in prevention, much better, much more cost effective. And as Polk always says, may you never know what you have prevented.
Yeah.
I like that. That's
Yeah.
that's well said. And so what, I'm just curious, well, a couple of things. When you're taking these molecules, how do people, how soon can somebody notice change? I know in the example that you just stated, Polk, they didn't really notice any change, but there's obviously something that is going on, but just an idea of like what can happen and, you know, just for that, so we can better understand the process, and maybe some other examples of, you know, how it can affect women over 40s health. I'm just curious.
I will say that everybody's different. And if you do have an issue that you want to improve, what I have found, it depends on how long you've had this issue. If you've had this issue for years, decades, it may take a little bit longer. But we do have people that have more energy, they sleep better, literally right after the first week or two. And one of the things that I do guide people through is, if they have an issue, I will start them on a ramp up dose. And then after 7 days, they increase their dose. But after 2 weeks, if they are not getting the improvements that they would hope for, I will recommend something called flooding the body with redox molecules. And that is where you drink 3 ounces every hour until you've finished the bottle, which is 32 ounces. And you do that 2 days in a row. And that has been an amazing miracle for people with some serious issues that need some improvement quickly. Yeah.
Wow. And so what kind of issues? I'm curious.
Yeah, if your cells are involved, this will help you. Now, we cannot name health issues. We can name symptoms, neurological, tick bite issues. This is very, very well known in alternative circles for tick bite issues. Stiffness, discomfort, bad cells. I have a family member who has a bad cell issue. He had been drinking this, and the bad cells had spread. He had been drinking this for a couple of months, went in for a scan, and the oncologist said, you're a miracle patient. We no longer see bad cells that had spread. And then he continued to drink, and a year later, another scan showed no bad cells anywhere, not even in the original spot. And again, the oncologist says, you are a miracle patient. Now, in case you think that's just a coincidence, there's a woman in Ireland that got caught during COVID. She had a tumor in her breast, and the doctors told her it was going to have to come out. And all of a sudden, it started hurting really bad. but it was in the middle of COVID and the hospitals were locked down, and they told her, sorry, we can't do surgery. And so she was introduced to the molecules, and you can drink the molecules, which is definitely, you want to drink them, but there's also a topical gel that you can apply topically. And it does a lot of things. I mean, the studies show that when you apply this topical gel, after one application in 15 minutes, there's a 49% increase in blood flow. And now, as a naturopath, I understand why people experience a relief in discomfort when they apply this gel. Because when you improve that blood flow, you are oxygenating that area, you are nourishing that area, and you are helping to carry away toxins. And by the way, when you apply that gel topically to your face and neck, it works wonders for beautiful age-reversing skin. I mean, truly, if you could see the pictures, it's just amazing. But anyway, so back to this woman, Maria, in Ireland. She was looking for discomfort relief because that tumor was really hurting her. And so she was introduced to these molecules. She started drinking them, and she has started applying the gel topically like every other hour so that she could sleep at night. Well, 3 months go by, and the hospitals are now open. So she goes back to her doctor, and he says, yes, we can schedule the surgery, but first we need to do another scan. Well, there was no tumor there. No tumor there. And, this woman, Maria, is doing what most people in her situation would do when they have an experience like that. She is sharing this with other people. She doesn't want anybody to miss out about this. She knows if I don't tell the people that I know, they may miss out on this. And that's really what Polk and I are all about. We want people to know about this. It's an incredible health and wellness tool, but you can't implement it if you don't know about it, if you don't have enough education to understand it. And I know that, in your practice with your complete well body method, I know that you're all about helping people move without discomfort and stiffness. And so the results just on that alone is absolutely huge. In fact, my own husband, now, here I am a naturopath. I implement all sorts of things, but my own husband may be my most skeptical, patient. And it wasn't until I applied these gels on a knee that was giving him some issues that he said, wow, you're right. This really does work.
Yeah, and I can tell you a few things that I've had, like burns that go away overnight, literally, and a wasp sting that I got, and it went away in 10 minutes. But you had asked earlier too about, how about ladies over 40? Well, my wife was considerably over 40, but when she was 40, she went through that change thing that made her do a lot of sweating, and did that for over 20 years. It really just never disappeared. But we were driving down the road one day, coming back from seeing our grandchildren, and I mentioned that she hadn't been talking about that very much. We'd been drinking the molecules again for 6 months, 8 months. I wasn't really counting, but I just said, you haven't been doing that. She said, no, I haven't. It's stopped.
Wow.
And when you go back to the fact that the studies show that 100% of the people get improvement in hormone modulation, that explains it. Also, I really believe that the 800% efficacy, of the glutathione, that improvement will help you too, because a lot of that is related to toxicity.
This has been really fascinating. So the redox molecules that we are introduced to today, which I'm so happy to have both you guys on here to share with everybody, is this something you think we're going to be seeing more of in the future? This is going to be the change that's made that people are going to be talking about.
40 years from now, it will be like antioxidants are today.
Okay. Well, and let me just point out, if you go on PubMed.gov, which is the National Library of Medicine, and you type in redox molecules, 29,000 research papers show up. Redox signaling, you type in 40,000. And if you go to Google Scholar, which is a research website, you type in redox, 3 million entries. You type in redox signaling, 3.3 million. So what does this tell us? The scientists have been studying redox and redox cell signaling for a long time. And yes, it's going to become mainstream, just like antioxidants became mainstream.
Wow. So everybody listening today, redox molecules.
Right.
There you have it. Well, thank you so much, Cathey and Polk, for coming on today. This has been extremely eye-opening and, subject that I didn't know exist. And so this is, I'm sure a lot of people have never heard of the redox molecule. So this has been extremely helpful and a great introduction. I'm going to be including the links on how to reach out to Cathey and Polk in the description of this episode so that you can get in contact with them for further information as well. And remember, we do new episodes every week on Wednesday, and I look forward to you joining me then.